So let's see if it's actually on the page. Not yet. Refresh. So for a while, I was trying to do this intro thing, and because I don't have a production team, it was tripping me all the time. So
Yeah, I was watching.
this is Facebook. Forget the intro. Everybody's used to Facebook being like, "Hello, waiting for some new watchers." So do it like Facebook. Or, I'll say it like that. But it usually takes a minute or two before people realize we're here.
Sure.
And if nobody realizes we're here, we'll still do it because it's always available.
Yep.
Though, I don't know. It's nice out today when it was so, with all that smoke the last couple of days. So
yeah, they said it was supposed to get like that again tomorrow, I think.
We're going to Hershey.
Ooh.
Weekend. We're supposed to go for a graduation party. That got canceled, but I already booked all kinds of stuff. So we're still gonna go and have fun.
Yeah. So, I love Hershey.
I heard there's a lot of antique stores and flea markets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
For those of you tuning in, we're just waiting to see if we have any other takers before we officially start. So don't mind me and Jen blabbering about the weather. But it was much prettier today for those watching. If you didn't get a chance to go outside, you can still see the sky. It's a little overcast, but a little blue still.
Yeah. Remind me of the movie The Mist.
I said it was like driving through a Stephen King novel, right? It was so creepy. And you couldn't, my picnic table, it's like a layer of ash on it and everything. So, this is not good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 8:03, so I'm gonna pretend that everybody's watching on YouTube and I just can't see them. Hi, Robin. I see you, my Robin. Of course, she's the one watching. All right, so let's get this party started. Yeah. Hello and welcome to Pardon My Positivity. I'm your host, Paula Lynch. By day, I'm a business owner. I don't say accountant anymore. By day, I'm a business owner. By night, I'm a bartender, but I'm a happy chick all the time. Not because life is easy, but because I choose to be happy. Pardon My Positivity is something I started in November of last year to try to help other people find happiness and focus on positivity in their lives, because I needed that kind of help myself pretty much my entire life. So once I started figuring out some of the tricks of how to do it, I decided I wanted to share with everybody else. So that's how we got the show. We air live just about every 2 weeks. You can find us on my Facebook page, YouTube, and on the Pardon My Positivity Facebook page. And we encourage viewer participation. So if you want to chat with us while we're talking, make sure you're on the Paula Lynch page, because my production crew is all retired and I have to watch everything myself. So if you pop up on my page, I'll see your comment right away. And most weeks I have a special guest, and tonight my special guest is Gennisis Bealer. I have known Jen for a really, really long time. Our daughters were Girl Scouts together. So I met Lena when she was 5 years old, knee high to, what is it? Knee high to an elephant's eye or something? I don't remember how it goes. Anyway, I've known Jen and been friends with Jen for a really long time. And her story in recent years is very influential and encouraging if you're looking to make a more positive life for yourself too. So I'm going to give Jen a minute to talk about herself and her journey.
Yep. So like Paula said, my name is Gennisis. I became a bonus mom, I guess you could say, at 16. And I kind of just ran with the whole mom thing. I'd never really experienced anything in my 20s. I never did anything because by the time I was 21, I was already pregnant again and just starting my family. So once my kids started getting older, I was realizing I really didn't know who I was. And to top all that off, in 2007, my grandmother had a stroke and became completely dependent on me. And I took care of her for the last 15 years in our home. I was her full-time caregiver. While being a mom, we opened our own business and I was also working. So I really did not know who I was. I was flatlined there. I didn't leave the house. I didn't do new experiences. And one day I just woke up and I was like, what do I want to do with myself? And every day is a new journey with me. I try to be happy. I battle with mental illness as well. So there's that fun spin to that story. So some days are good, some days are bad. I try to work on new coping skills and just try to take back my life and find out who I really am and what I want to do in this world.
See, and that's really all those kinds of things are all those little building blocks to having a happier life. I think you hit on so many of them, like getting out there, finding myself, self-care, all those little things that some of us don't even realize we're supposed to do them. And most of the time, and we put them on the back burner. So that's when Gennisis and I talked about her being on the show. We decided a good idea was to talk about how as we get older, we start off as kids very me oriented. And as we age, it starts becoming more and more about other people. And then you become a parent, and then your parents or your grandparents age. And all of a sudden, all of our needs and all of our desires become something that we just don't have the time for because we're so focused on taking care of other people and making other people happy. So personally, that's what tonight's show is about. That's why we called it Making the Journey to Maturity Marvelous, because you don't have to give up all those things that promote your own happiness in order to take care of other people. You should focus on yourself and your happiness because it allows you to be even more beneficial to the people around you. So for those of you who don't know my background in this particular subject is I'm the older sister of 10 kids, and due to circumstances beyond my control and my parents, I became a mother figure at a very young age. So I started taking care of siblings before I hit double digits. So immediately I took on this role and the me was gone at a very young age. And as I got older, I became a mom at 19. And then within 4 years, had 3 kids, boom, 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 3 kids right in a row. I have a 4th who came along a couple of years later, but my 21st birthday, I couldn't drink because I had a house full of tiny kids. So I, like Gennisis was talking about, I didn't do any partying for the most part or finding myself when I was young because I was so busy helping other people and finding other people. And my grandparents, I was very close to my grandparents so that as they aged, I made sure to maintain a relationship with them and try to help them with certain things when my grandmother was alive. And one day I woke up and I found myself, I've got 4 kids. I'm a Girl Scout leader. I volunteer all the time for the American Cancer Society. I'm giving all this stuff to other people, and I don't have anything left for myself. And I realized at that point and that I had given so much to my ex-husband. I had given so much to my kids, but I didn't have a me there. I didn't have an identity outside of being that leader and that mom and that wife. And so my journey in the last year and a half or so has been to get me to that point where I'm sure the girl existed when I was a teenager, but I haven't seen her for 30 years. So that's how I fit into the story as we go through today's topic. So my experience will come along. And really, the most important part about it is I thought that's all I was. That's who I was. If I wasn't taking care of other people, if I wasn't making other people happy, I had no purpose. And that was one of the hardest things for me to learn, that my worth is not based on how much I can do for everybody else. I am valuable even on my worst days when I can't do anything for anybody. So, you gave us some background on you, but do you have more to add to the story of?
Do you want me to talk about like how, like what I'm doing to help myself?
Sure.
Sure. So I was very closed off. I had maybe 2 or 3 friends, a handful of friends that I sometimes hung out with, and I just wanted more from life. You know, my husband's my best friend, but I see him every day. So I'm like, I need new faces. So, you know, we started going out. I talked to people, which is not me at all. I said no a lot in my life, to myself, like things I wanted to do. Like I always wanted my nose pierced. I wanted a tattoo. And one day I was just like, I'm doing that. And that's what really started my journey. You know, I was raised very, very conservative by my grandparents. And like when I came home with my nose pierced, my grandmother lost it. She could not believe it. And I'm like, Graham, I'm 35. Like I'm allowed to do this now. But yeah, like even I still second guess myself. I'm like, am I living my life right? Because I don't know, you know, like there's so many contradicting things going on in my brain because of the way I was raised and how I want to live. So that's a battle that I'm dealing with as well.
Yeah, and an important part for both Gennisis and I, and for anybody watching and trying to get anything from this program, is that your story changes constantly. So the things you need to do can change constantly, and everybody's path is different, right? So Jen had a problem because she was always saying no to herself. I had a problem because I was always saying yes to everybody else. So I didn't have time to say yes to myself because I was so busy giving it all over everywhere I could. So let's get into the nitty gritty of how people can avoid these things. I found it really interesting. There's the super mom mentality, right? This is one of the problems that we have. And it's not just for moms. It can be, you know, a super dad mentality. It can apply to your parents. It can apply to your work. But the thought is that you have to do everything all the time, that everything's your responsibility. If I don't do it, it won't get done, kind of thing, mentality. So, but they did a study, the National Council for Research on Women did this study where they found that women who were professional and didn't stay at home with their kids, they were not satisfied at the end of the day. At the end of the study, they were unhappy because they didn't spend any time with their kids. But the stay-at-home moms, they were also unhappy because they didn't pursue a career and make a difference in the outside world. So the end result of the study is that not that you should be a stay-at-home mom or you should be a career woman. The result of the study is that you should stop having expectations that you can do all of that at once, because that's why they're sad. They're sad because they think in order to be the best version of themselves, they have to do it all. And if they're not, they're falling short somewhere. So we need to change that mentality. Like I can completely relate to that as a career woman with 4 kids. I started working when I was 14 years old, and I've been working every day of my life in one way, shape, or form. Even when kids were really little and I was a stay-at-home mom, I was still delivering newspapers or working the closing shift at McDonald's. I was always had a job, right? And I also had the problems where the super mom ideology, where I'm like, oh, the kids need something for a bake sale at school. I'm going to make homemade from scratch brownies for the party, for the thing at school, when I could just stop by Weiss and buy brownies in a box and send them to school. So I had those parties too. Or I still have this issue. I can't throw a party. I have to throw a party. So I I had that super mom mentality too. And I know Gennisis had
Yeah.
the same kind of thing, right? The at-home mom versus working mom.
Yeah, I had both. I experienced with both. I did it. I was a stay-at-home mom for, oh my gosh, almost all of my youngest's life. And I loved being a mom. I loved being there, but I wasn't getting everything out of it. Like, and that makes me feel bad, thinking that I'm not happy with being a mom because that's what I want to be. But like, sometimes you still need more, you know? And I, instead of keeping it in and not not expressing myself, I went to my husband and I was like, I'm going crazy and something needs to change here. And,
Yeah.
it took a while, but we revamped our life and I went back to work and then he stayed home. And then he started going crazy and it took him a lot less time to go crazy than it took me, just to put that out there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
So, and it's just, but even now, like when I'm at work, I'm like, oh man, I wish I could be home. But then when I get home, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I have that time away because even though I'm working, I'm
yeah.
still, it's still my me time, whether it's rocking out in the car on my way to work and, getting in the mood to deal with customer service, but it's, I think you just need to do what makes you happy. And if that means adjusting your lifestyle and having a support system behind you that you can adjust your lifestyle, then do it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And changing the mindset that it has to be everything.
Mhm.
You don't have to do everything. Like I use the example of buying the brownies at Weiss, but some things we're not even qualified to do, but we're going to try to do them because I need it done by Tuesday and I can't rely on anybody else because I trust myself to get it done. So I'm going to kill myself trying to do a project that I have no clue what I'm doing and then stressing myself out and then no time for anything that actually brings me joy. So we as a society need to change that thought that any one of us, not just super moms, any one of us doesn't have to do everything. So when we try to do everything, what happens is our own needs get put on the back burner. They're in the back seat because we can't focus on them because we're focusing on everybody else and everything else that has to be done. So we want to talk about how to take a front seat, how to put your own needs and your own mental health and emotional positivity, happiness, put all that in the front seat because like we've said before, and I'll say 1,000 times, you're more effective and you're more helpful to the rest of the world if you're healthy here and here. So we have everybody loves my bullet point. So some tips on how to take the front seat. Well, the first one is to know or learn yourself. So personally, when everything fell apart for me 3 years ago, I kept doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'm living the same life I was living when I was married. And I just kept being miserable because I kept doing the same things. And I didn't realize those things weren't making me happy because they were part of my responsibilities. And so I got to a point where I was like, okay, I have to change something. I can't live here anymore. I come from a lifetime of sadness and depression and dealing with emotional problems. But in 2021, no, 2022, I said, I can't make it anymore like this. I need to change something. So I started the part of my positivity page. It was Glitter Shoes and Happiness too. I took a bartending class. I got a job as a bartender, started making a whole new array of friends and building myself and only pursuing things that brought me happiness. So if it was something that didn't bring me joy, then I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore. That stresses me out. I don't need to do it. So I'm not going to do it. All my kids are grown. They're all capable of making themselves happy. So all my siblings are grown. My grandparents are passed away. I don't have to worry about making anybody happy besides me. So I changed it all. But that was my journey in knowing and learning myself, because I really didn't know how to make myself happy. So when you're trying to learn yourself, there's a couple points to help you get there. Reflection and meditation. I have said this before for people who watch the show all the time. I'm not real big on meditation because I'm a mover, shaker, but I'm very big on reflection. And reflection can simply be, taking 10 minutes in the morning and writing down your thoughts, or taking 10 minutes at night and thinking about how your day went. You should also examine your strengths and weaknesses and be honest with yourself about who you are. It's hard to look at ourselves and see the negative parts of ourselves. It can be really depressing, but if you accept who you are, like I'm an overthinker, and that gets me in trouble. Even now, as happy as I am on a regular basis, my overthinking trips me sometimes every day, at least once or twice a week, right? Because, did I do that wrong? Oh, are they going to react poorly to that? Oh, is he going to stop talking to me? Kind of thing. And I have to sit myself down and say, is this my brain doing this, or do I have an actual reason to be concerned? And more often than not, it's my overthinking. But because I accept that part of me, one, I can work on that part of me, and two, I can recognize when maybe it's me and not the situation. So you have to be honest with yourself.
And something that I started doing with my new journey, my journey. It's a journey, guys.
It is a journey. It is.
Yeah. But like, I want to live my life for myself. I have one shot. Like, if I'm trying to please everybody and I'm making myself miserable, I'm living for those people, and I want to be living for myself. And it's just, I had a really hard time with communication. So I would be in my head a lot. Like, I would say things and I'd be like, oh, people aren't going to like that I did that. Or even now when I have conversations with people, I think, ooh, did that come off the wrong way? And instead of sitting and dwelling inside my head and just picking myself apart and making myself feel like crap, I will ask the person, I'll be like, hey, I don't know if that happened or if you took it the wrong way. And plus, most of my interactions are through emails, it's a virtual world, text messaging, and emotion and what's the word? Voice inflection is not read, and sometimes I could be in a great mood and someone can read it like I'm being like a raging jerk. So I'll be like, I don't know if that came off like really hostile, but this is what I meant. And I always thought telling people that would make me look weirder, but it actually opened up more communication, because they're like, I totally didn't take it that way. And you're just beating yourself up for no reason.
So, but because you are honest with yourself about who you are, you're now learning how to communicate better with other people because you recognize that weakness in yourself. We like to think about, I love to think about, like, I'm creative. I'm actually very big about communication and stuff like that. But I have a really hard time with self-worth. So I have to dig a little deeper when I'm having one of those days, but I recognize that about me. And I love that about me because I know that's part of my past story. Like, I want to improve that. I don't want to have problems with my self-worth, but I still love the person that I am. So that means a girl that some days feels like, oh, nobody's ever going to love me. But you can't fix a problem unless you admit it's there. So, besides knowing and learning yourself, you have to accept yourself, which we kind of just rolled into with our conversations. But I want to point out that you're formed by your experiences, right? So you can't change them. You have to accept them. no matter how bad you want it to be that your parents didn't get a divorce when you're 8, or how bad you want it to be that you didn't marry that guy, that's what happened. You can't go back and change it. So you have to accept the things that happened and accept how it changed you so that you can build a better life, so you can put yourself in the front seat. Here was a good one. Release conditioned behaviors, because when we're young, a lot of stuff is taught to us, like in simple terms, a lot of the stuff that we were supposed to do or we were allowed to go 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you are not allowed to do now. They're not acceptable things. We didn't recycle anything when I was a kid. What are you talking about recycling? But now, who doesn't recycle? It's just something everybody does now because it's more responsible globally, right? If you jump back a generation, we're talking about things that were acceptable when it involving race, or even in this generation, my generation, there's things that we have learned as a society shouldn't be, so we change them. So you have to release the things that you were conditioned to when you were young or through your experiences. My problem with self-esteem is because I was conditioned to think people wouldn't like me unless I was the best. Unless I was, number one, I wasn't worth love and attention and what I needed from life. So I have to unlearn those conditions.
Yeah, and I'm a very literal person.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, I took everything seriously. As an adult, I still like to hold somebody's hand crossing the street, because in my brain, if you're not holding a parent's hand, you're going to get hit by a car, And I never even realized it was something that I did. And nobody really pointed it out to me until my husband was like, hey, you don't have to do this all the time. And I'm like, what do you mean? Yes, I do. That's just something I have to do. But then when it was brought to my attention, I felt bad about it, because I'm like, oh, that is so weird, because who as an adult likes to hold somebody's hand, even if it's a grown adult, to cross the street, But people are still in my life, even if I do things that are weird or taboo that aren't, I may think that they're weird, but they like it, they're still going to accept me and accept
they don't accept you,
what I bring to the table.
If they don't accept you, they're the wrong people.
Yes.
As we sit here chatting, I'm realizing that one of the biggest conditions that I had, and it actually came from my grandmother, who was, my most important person outside of my kids. It was that she was truly a matriarch. Like, everybody did whatever she said, you know what I mean? So we were always at every party. We all gathered at her house. That's the way it was supposed to be. And because that was so ingrained in me, as my kids got older, I seriously had the expectation that everybody would come over every week and I would be the place, and it even extended to my siblings, because I was such a maternal figure to them when they were younger. But as time went on and my kids got older and my siblings got older and their families grew, they got farther and farther away from me being the central hub. And that was so hard for me to accept, because I was so conditioned that that's the way family works. That's the way family works. The mom is the central of everything. And now I'm okay if people can't come to an event that I'm having for the family, or I'm okay, when Christmas comes around and it's just me and Becca hanging out at the house, I'm okay with that. But there were years in there where it ripped me up all the time, because I was so conditioned that that's the way it's supposed to be, and everybody else was doing it wrong. And no, that's how it was supposed to be for Nan, because that was Nan's story. And I raised a group of people that I raised them to be independent, to follow their desires, to focus on their families. And so, of course, when it came to those kinds of things, they were focused on the things I wanted them to focus on. I shouldn't be sad about that. So, the other thing is when you're taught to do things, sometimes we're taught to do things in not so nice ways, right? So if people hurt you in your life and it caused conditioning for you, you need to forgive them. Forgiveness is not for them. It doesn't mean that you'll allow them to do it again or that you're saying it's okay. Forgiveness is for you, because without forgiving what happened, you can't move on from what happened. You also have to forgive yourself, because that's how you heal. If you recognize that, I say all the time, I was the best mom I could be at 21. I was the best mom I could be at 26. I was the best mom I could be at 33. I'm the best mom that I can be at 48, right? But had I known all the stuff I know now at 21, I would have been an incredibly different mom, a much more effective mom, a much more understanding mom, a much less stressed out and angry mom, and I would have had different kids. But that mom at 21 was doing the best that she could do. And so I struggle with that too in my journey, that I should have been better. I should have known the things that I know now then, but I didn't have a way to know them. So I forgive myself for not knowing more, for not being more experienced. And now every day I try to do better every day. And that's all you can do. You can't change the past. You can't fix the past. Forgive yourself and make tomorrow better.
Yes,
So
that's something that I say a lot with my daughter, because she grew up with me. She knew me as a child essentially, and she'll bring up things that I have no recollection of doing, but it impacted her, and I can accept that and work with her to move forward. I'm like, we can either live in the past or we can look at the amazing things that we're doing now and grow as people. And if you don't forgive yourself, and you'll just stay where you are.
Right. You become stagnant if you can't forgive yourself, and you just stay stuck. And we don't want to do that. We want to grow. We're going to change regardless. You're going to change regardless, but you can control to a certain degree your change. So by forgiving yourself and doing better tomorrow, you're changing what you grow to be. By sitting and wallowing, you're not becoming a better version of you. So let's see what's next. You need other people, so pick the right ones. So I had a whole show on this a while back now, but it's feeding the relationships that support your happiness. And there's some people in your life, some people you're going to know right away, oh, they make me happy. This is just a good fit, right? Then there's going to be other people who they're going to be a part of your life simply because they're in your circle somehow. They're in your family. They work at the office. You can't control that they work there. So for those people, you have to just learn how to manage your relationships with them. So you have to be able to separate your happiness from your interactions with them. They don't control if you're happy. You control if you're happy. So don't let their negativity pull you down. And then there are people who are an absolute drain on you, and it's all right to not have those people in your life. That it doesn't matter if it's, your mom or your cousin or the girl you've been best friends with since you were 12 years old. If that person is consistently draining you, and sometimes it's accidental. People don't mean to do these things. So you communicate. And when you communicate, if they still are a consistent drain, then you're just not a right fit. And I will always point out over and over again, because we all are constantly changing. The people who are right fit for you when you were 22 are probably not the same people who are a right fit for you when you're 48, only because you've changed so much in 26 years. So feed the relationships that help you. I know you have something to add on this, right? So
I do. I have an analogy that I like to use, which is kind of lame, but it's me. So I like to, I put my friends in groups like plants, because you have some plants that are extremely needy and need to be watered every day and constant constant attention from you. And that can be draining too, because sometimes you don't want to. There's times that you just need to be for yourself, and then you have your work friends, and you go by with the pleasantries, and maybe sometimes they'll get a little nugget of like what you're really like, but you need to distance yourself from them, because they're not you're not working to be friends with them. Like they're being paid to essentially tolerate you, so like you have to have that separation there. And like work friends are work friends. You can hang out with them, but there has to be the difference there. And then there's the friends that I would consider them like the cactuses, where you don't need to water them at all. And essentially that they're a hardy person, and they're going to be there when you're at rock bottom. You can call them and pick up like nothing happened. I mean, our daughters are like that. They can go weeks, months without talking, and then pick up like nothing happened.
So,
it's trying to find who makes you happy, who makes you want to be a better person. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who are constantly making you stay in your head and feel bad and second guess everything you're doing, those are not the people that you should be surrounding yourself with.
That's right. That's absolutely the like key to this whole section. And that there are people who will feed you, and there are people who will take from you, and there's a couple in between people, but you need to promote the right relationships. Then the last tip we have on trying to put yourself in the front seat is to do what makes you happy, really happy. And so one of the things I've heard my entire life is, and I always felt really bad about it, is that you should have the career that you're passionate about, the career that makes you happy. And okay, so for a big chunk of my life, I was a corporate accountant, and nobody ever was writing in their journal when they were in third grade saying, I want to be a corporate accountant. No corporate accountant gets up and was like, oh my gosh, I'm so passionate about my job. That's not what you do. But having that career afforded me the money and the time, the flexibility that allowed me to pursue the kinds of things that really brought me passion. Like I was able to volunteer a lot. I was able to spend more time, especially once I started having grandchildren. I could free up more time to do things with them and have fun with them. So if you can't have the career that is your passion, you should. It does actually work better if what you're doing is what you're passionate about. Believe me, someday when this part of my positivity is so huge that I'm on Oprah, I'm going to be real happy. But until then, I'm going to keep doing things like being a compliance officer so that I can use that money to spend time with my family and take trips and go out with my friends. So your career should feed your passion. And whatever your passion is, even if your passion is like that dinner for schmucks, taking little dead rats and taxiderming them into the Last Supper, if that's your passion, then always make sure to take time, even if it's just a little time, part-time, so that you pursue your passion, because that's how you continue to put your needs forward in a world where you feel like everything is your responsibility. So learn yourself, accept yourself, hang out with the right people, and do the things that make you happy. So that's a short list on how to keep yourself in the front seat. But more often than not, when we realize, I'm lost, I don't even know who I am. I've spent so long in the back seat that I forget how to drive, right? We get to that point, we're already lost. So it's not about just doing a couple things to make yourself happy and hang out with the right people. You really got to do some work internally, emotionally yourself, so that you can get back on track. So you kind of got to restart everything. And I think for Gennisis and I, it was accidental. we didn't even realize that's what we were doing. We just knew something ain't right and it's got to change. So let me try this and 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 hit or miss, trial, error, figured out the things that worked for us. But that's why we're here, so we can help you to maybe get a guideline on how you can travel. So before we get into that, we have a couple comments. James Flamish says hi. Hi, James, one of my biggest supporters, always throwing me out there on the internet. Stephanie Ray thanked us for doing the show, and she just put a big comment on yes about us talking about you get completely lost and have to find yourself a second ago. And then Richard Shoup is there. I have Stephanie just said hi to him because she was one of his students in high school. So if anybody remembers Senior Shoup from Easton High School, he's right there in the comments. And if anybody forgets, he also happens to be my father. So thanks, Dad.
I was wondering if you're going to put that little plug in there.
Sometimes I pretend they're not related to me, but most of the time I give them credit because, I am who I am because of the people around me.
Yes.
So when you get to the point where you're like, whoops, I lost myself, how do I get back there? We have some tips on how you can get back to finding yourself. Like I said, Gennisis and I both kind of accidentally found our path there just by doing things. And but here's some guides, some tips for you guys in case you're feeling super lost. So the first one is visualize your ideal life. This doesn't have to be a formal thing. I have a vision board, right? I have a vision board, and on my vision board has actually been a part of my dressing room for since 2018. And it has trips I want to take, which I need to take most of them. It used to have things like, I wish I could wear this dress, and I can wear that dress now, one, for health reasons, but also because I love myself enough now that I can wear the dress. That was my bigger problem. My waistline was a health concern, but my love of myself was the bigger problem with wearing that dress. But I realized recently one of the things on my vision board was a couple, an old couple. So on my vision board, I had this vision of being in a long-term relationship and growing old with somebody. And recently I realized that that's not something that belongs on my vision board, because your vision board should have things that you can control. And I can't control if somebody loves me. I can't control if somebody is with me until I'm an old lady sitting on the porch drinking tea. I can control if I'm happy with a person or without a person. So I've changed that part of my vision board to be that I want to be happy, because you should be happy if you're in a relationship or not in a relationship. So I changed my vision board there. So, but you want to only put things that you can control on your vision board. If you're going to get to Hawaii, you have to put in some effort to make that trip. So that's on your vision board. If you're going to own a big house with a wraparound porch, you probably have to put in a couple extra hours at your job so you can buy that big house. But think about things. Where do you want to be a year from now? Where do you want to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And then that'll help guide you to your happiness.
I also love, Paula, I love that you said how you changed. You realized that your vision wasn't obtainable, and you changed. It is okay to change. If you can change your mind every day, whatever makes you happy. I mean, I wouldn't recommend changing your mind every day, but whatever makes you happy, it's okay. Like, change doesn't mean failure.
That's right. Because we're always evolving. If you're not changing things all the time, then you have to change something because you're stuck.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be evolving and changing. Some things it's cool to still like from when you were a kid, like I still like Disney. I love some Disney cartoons, and I still like High C Fruit Punch and cotton candy. But if I was stuck on those things, all the things from when I was a kid, I would never mature and progress and become my potential. So let's see, reflect on relationships. So this is a good way to get yourself back, because you're looking at the people who make you happy, the people who want to be with you, right? So if you look at how other people see you, what is it? You understand yourself better when you look at the relationships you have, because you see how other people see you, and you understand yourself better. Like, one of my closest friends is a girl. She's actually a work friend, but I worked with her for 15 years, right? And I see so much of me. She's quite a few years younger than me, but I see so much of me in her, and she sees so much of her in me, that when situations happen, they're like, well, I know you did that then, because that's exactly what I would do. So my Crystal and I are very much in sync with each other. But that's because she feeds me and I feed her. So if you look at the people who make you feel good, you'll realize that the things they're doing that make you feel good are the things that you're doing that make them feel good. So if you're feeling like you don't have self-worth, seeing what your closest friends give you, help you to center on, oh, I do that for her too. Oh, I do that for him too. He makes sure I'm okay every day, and I make sure he's okay every day. So I'm a good person because I do that. So you have
Yeah, even just the little check-ins, just saying, hey, how are you doing? How's work? Like that, you could be having a really bad day, and just somebody checking in on you lets you know that you're on their mind. You're making an impact in their life, and that's kind of awesome.
yeah, that it is. That it's awesome that people check on you during the course of the day.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do things on your own. This is the big one, and it was one of the hardest ones for me because I'm from a huge family and I have 4 kids and 4 grandkids. I never had time alone, and in fact, when I first started having to spend time alone, just that being alone at home, I would get severely depressed because I could not handle the alone. And I'll be honest, COVID actually helped me deal with that a lot, because COVID forced me to not be able to participate in all these kinds of things with lots of people that I wanted to be doing, that I was used to be doing, that I felt like really fed me. So I had to find other ways to find happiness that didn't involve all these other people. So, but when you're doing things on your own, why it's beneficial is it forces you to focus on yourself. It boosts your confidence because you're doing things alone. But there's also less distractions when you're doing things by yourself. If you're going to take a pottery class and you go with 3 of your friends, are you really learning how to do the pottery, or are you just doing the BYOW thing and laughing with your friends? So the things that you do alone, you're actually going to learn more and be less distracted if you do them by yourself.
Yeah, I have a hard time doing this. I'm a very dependent person on people. So that's something that I've been trying to do, even if it's going to Dunkin' for 20 minutes and getting the drink that I want, or going and getting my nails done every other week. Like I realized that I needed to make sure I liked who I was when I wasn't around people, because if I didn't like myself, like what's the point, So I didn't know who I was by myself. I was always, oh, that's so and so's mom, that's so and so's wife, and it was never, that's Gennisis.
Yes. Yeah, you get too lost. You have to know yourself. And I always thought it was, for most of my life, I thought that phrase was silly, that no one can love you until you love yourself. Because I always felt like I love a lot of people who don't love themselves, kind of thing. And it's not that no one can love you until you love yourself. It's that you won't allow people to love you until you love yourself. Because until you realize your self-worth and your value, you can't really accept love from other people, no matter how genuine it is. You'll never truly believe that you deserve it, and so you'll always be waiting for the other shoe to fall. You won't accept love until you love yourself. So, and doing things on your own helps you to do that, because you're discovering yourself and helps you put your needs in front. Stay organized is another one, another tip for getting yourself back in the front seat. Very important, make self-care part of your schedule. I'm actually pretty good about making sure I have self-care, but recently I started like adding it to my day, because I'll do something like I have a nail appointment tomorrow, so that I consider that self-care, or going out with my friends one day, I consider that self-care. But every day you should have some me time. So I started putting it in, because about midday I started to get, like I need a Snickers or something in my day. And if I do something for myself, then it invigorates me and helps me. But you also, if you're more organized in your life, then you have more time for yourself. So when you do things like make a shopping list so that you don't have to go to the store 5 times, look at all the time you just cleaned up in your schedule, so that now the 2 hours you would have spent for those other 4 trips to the grocery store, you can use that 2 hours and watch The Notebook, if that's what your self-care is, or you can use that 2 hours and play in your garden, or I don't know, go to the bar and drink shots. Whatever it is that brings you happy, you can do that with the extra 2 hours, because you organized your life well enough that you found 2 extra hours. Go ahead and give it to yourself. Next tip, recognize when you need to step away. We have a really hard time doing this in this day and age, because we're so obsessed with social media, which is always hard for me to say because everybody's on social media watching me right now. But all of us need to step away sometimes from life. This is why my favorite place in the world is to be in the mountains. And I consider myself extremely blessed to now be associated with a family who has a cabin, and I can just run up there whenever I want to. So, but that's my happy place, and that's my reset, my detach. I still post my pondering in the morning, but for the most part, my phone is just not on the entire time I'm there, and I'm just enjoying the trees and the deers and the people I'm with. But everybody needs to detach sometimes, because that's how you reset yourself, so you can put yourself first.
I had a problem with this, Paula. I would always think that if someone sent me a text message or an email came through, I had to stop everything I was doing and do it and respond and make sure that I was, putting in the effort, and I wasn't putting the effort in myself and the people around me. So now when we go out places, I'll be like, you know what, my phone's going to stay in the car, or my phone's going to be off and in my purse that way in case there's an emergency. But it's normal. We've become so addicted to technology and having our phones, and just the drop of the hat, you can talk to somebody, and you need the alone time sometimes, and the quality time with the people that are in your face.
And nobody needs to hear from you that fast.
Yeah.
Like, we're so immediate with everything. And I had the same problem for the longest time. I still have it to a certain degree. The problem that I need to answer right away. I need to tell them, kind of thing. But it's actually examining the relationships, the good relationships in my life, that I'm like, okay, I know if I need his attention immediately, I've got to call. But if it's something I just want to let him know, I send a text message, then he'll get to it eventually, kind of thing, because I don't have to make everything an emergency for him where he has to answer all the time. So, just because you got a text message doesn't mean you got to answer it right now. Just because you got an email, you don't have to answer it right now. And the people who care about you and value your relationship with them, they'll learn things like I did, where okay, if I need this, if I need something right away, I need to buzz. If I don't need it, I'll just send a little message. So we have another message from Stephanie, who says, Gennisis, hello, you coached my daughter in cheer. So
what? Which one?
Yeah. Stephanie, you'll have to let us know your daughter's name so that Gennisis can remember. And James J. Pepe says, Buonasera. Thanks. Whoa, my Italian's too rusty. Jenna, her name is Jenna Gracia. Jenna Gracia,
That,
Gracia.
I mean, this was a long time ago. You're pulling out like what, 10 years, but that name does sound familiar. I feel like she had like dark hair. Now I'm gonna feel really bad if she didn't, but I feel like she had dark hair.
Well, back to our list
Yes.
of ways that you can reset after, if you've found yourself completely lost. So recognize when you have to step away. And now we're talking about learning the difference between opinions and support, because we all have people in our lives who want to give us advice on everything that we're doing. And when somebody says to you, oh, you should do it this way, that's an opinion. It's not necessarily your path. And when somebody says something more along the lines of like, oh, that's a great idea for you because you love the beach, so that's a great idea for you to do that, then that's support. And far too often we get offended, or we feel like we have to do what everybody says, or we feel like we can't say, somebody, you say, I need to key down, and they tell me, oh, you should go to the beach this weekend because it's so nice on the beach. You lay on the beach for hours and all your worries wash away. No, I lay on the beach for hours and I then become a lobster with sand in my panties and I'm miserable. So I don't want to do that because that doesn't suit me. But put me in the mountains with my hoodie on and a fire pit, man, that's where it's at, kind of thing. So the people that know you best will help you with support and not just throw opinions at you that you have to do it this way, you have to do it this way, you have to do it this way.
Yeah, and just because somebody gives you their opinion on how they think you should be living your life doesn't mean you need to take it if it's not for you.
That's right. And you never have to take any of that stuff to heart. Oh, it's one of the hardest things to learn, is that just because people say it to you doesn't mean that I have to, oh, well, they said it, who cares? That doesn't make me who I am. All right, thanks. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
So another tip on getting back on track is list the things you love about you, even the little things. So I list things like, I'm happy, I'm empathetic, I tend to be, available. Not that I don't have stuff that I'm doing, but when somebody needs me for something, that becomes the priority. So those are good things about me. We quite often focus on the negative things about ourselves. And I can tell you, in my journey, that's all I thought about for a long time, was how I was falling short here and I wasn't succeeding here, and why wasn't this working here? And now, and I feel like my journey is short because we're only really talking about a year and a half that I've really been trying to be happy all the time. But I was reviewing the notes for this and I had to sit there and I had to ask, I was like, what's bad things about me? Because now I'm like, I'm creative, I'm happy, I'm social, I'm, because I love myself more, so I can see more of the good in me than the negative in me. So I had to actually ask, what's bad about me? Oh, you have self-esteem issues. Oh yeah, I do. You overthink. Oh yeah, I know that one. I know that. But as you grow and put yourself in the front seat more, you're gonna find that you're focused on your own love. You're loving yourself so much that you don't constantly see the bad parts about you. Yeah, they're gonna pop up from time to time. You're gonna have bad days from time to time, but you're gonna my dad just called me humble. I love you too. Where did I learn that from? I don't know. So let's see. The last tip is keep learning. So if you want to find yourself and get back to you, or find yourself for the first time, maybe you didn't know you could be this person. Keep learning. Not only does it keep your brain sharp, but as you keep learning things that interest you, you're growing and expanding yourself in positive directions. Like my example I put on there was the bartending thing, because when I was looking for another way to fill my time because I was just hitting the same wall, doing the same things, my friends were all like, "What? You have a bartender personality?" So I was like, "Okay, I'll go to bartending school. I'll get a job as a bartender." And learning that, I now have learned a magnitude of things that I didn't even realize I wanted to learn about. I know way too much about bowling equipment right now. So, but expanding my knowledge so that I can better communicate with my friends. By the way, it looks like Jenna was blonde and she had a heart
Ah,
issue. That probably helps you.
that's right. I remember
There
that.
you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
That made it. I struggle with that too sometimes with Girl Scouts because I
Yeah.
ran all those events for 400 girls every year. And people would be like, my daughter, Mary. And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. There was literally thousands of girls who went through.
Yeah.
But
And I just wanted to
so
say one other thing for you, Miss. Oh my gosh, I called you
call me
Miss
Miss
Paula.
Paula because that's what the girls called me for 20
Yeah.
years.
I was like, do not call her Miss Paula. Do not call her Miss Paula.
I
But
love
I
it.
just want to say one other thing too is, watching you through social media and Facebook and seeing you grow and you not being afraid to take risks in yourself kind of gave me the confidence to be able to do it too.
I
So
love that story.
definitely that. And I love that you're a bartender and you probably don't realize how many people's lives you really affect by just being there because you have such a positive. I don't think I've ever, even when you're not in a good mood, you still have a positive spin on it. And that's why I love reading your stuff every morning because I'm like, you know what? If she can do it, even though she's sad, I can do it too.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Well, we've run over. I love when shows run over. But we hope that you got something out of our show tonight. If you keep yourself a priority, then you'll do better in all aspects of your life, from your careers to your kids. I once heard on a cooking show, like you can't make gumbo without a good roux. So the base is flour and butter base, that you have to have a good roux, and that's the key to having really good gumbo, right? And that's the key to you having a really good life. You need a good base here, and once you have a good base here, then everything else just comes together. And as you throw the okra in, even though okra is disgusting, the gumbo tastes delicious. So we hope that you can use these tips to make your life a little better. Do you have anything else, Jen?
Nope, I am good.
All right. So we're going to sign off. I want to remind you, this time I have some special things coming up. One being my son's wedding. So it's going to foobar my schedule a little bit for the podcast, but my plan is that I'm going to have a show in a week. So, but then I'll have 2 full weeks off. So I'm going to have it in 7 days. I'll have a show. So real soon you'll get information on that show and what the topic will be. But I'll see you guys in a week. And thank you, Jen, so much for being on the show. Give Lena and the boys some kisses for me because I miss them so much. And for all the rest of you, I wish you a good night. And I'll see you in a week. And I want to remind you that the key to your happiness